Hey guys, it's time for the NBA playoffs. So at the start of every postseason, there's always a couple matchups that make you think, okay, maybe the underdog has a real shot at winning. In this video, we're going to take a look at the NBA's most likely upsets, the lower seeded teams with a very good chance at winning their matchup. And it could be for various reasons. Whether it's a mid-season trade that changed the course of their season, or it could be something else that makes their team much more dangerous than what meets the eye. Without further ado, let's get started. The Warriors vs. Rockets. Starting with the Warriors, it's hard to call them the underdogs, but by record, they are. It's pretty clear why they have a strong chance to win. When they acquired Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline, they went 23-7 in the 30 games he played. That's a near 60-win pace.
Time Curry with the interception. 12 turnovers. Moody, the cutting Butler.
And had Butler been with them all season long, the Warriors could have secured a much better record than what they finished with. In fact, they were struggling to get above 500 before he got there. Not just that, but Jimmy's playoff resume speaks for itself. There's a reason the NBA fanbase coined the term playoff Jimmy, because when the pressure is at its highest, he thrives under the spotlight. Now, I know people always say the refs allow tougher defense in the playoffs and they call much fewer fouls, but this logic, it doesn't apply to Butler, who plays a physical game and still gets just as many free throws as the regular season. For the Warriors, a team that's been dead last, or near dead last in the league in free throw attempts for several years now, Butler has changed the course of their franchise in such a drastic way. Now, they're one of the highest shooting free throw teams. And it's not just the free throws itself. Jimmy's ability to get opponents into foul trouble makes it so much easier for the rest of his team to get more free throws. Curry's free throws skyrocketed since they acquired Jimmy. His skill at drawing fouls is, at times highly controversial, but it's a skill nonetheless, and something he's mastered over the years. Plus, just having a team with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, all these experienced veterans definitely give the Warriors an edge that the Rockets do not have.
50% shooting for Memphis. 3, Curry.
Speaking of the Rockets, this is the first appearance in the playoffs for their young core of players. In particular, Alperen Sengun, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, and Jabari Smith Jr. Their prized young squad of prospects who spent several years developing together, improving alongside one another. It's a great story for a young team like this to be such a dominant force in the Western Conference all year long, and establish themselves with the second best record in the conference. Just living here in Texas, I've seen some games myself where this is a team that Houston should be proud of, and they're building it the right way. On top of that, they've been consistently a top 5 defensive team throughout the season, with much of the credit going to Ime Udoka, who turned the defense around in a big way, going from 29th to 9th and then to 4th. Much of it has to do with his philosophy, which is quite complex. In an article by Michael Pina on The Ringer, this is how he described it. Quote, "Houston switches a ton, but doesn't believe in mismatches. That means every Rocket pretty much has to know stone cold all their opponents' mannerisms and tendencies. It requires a ton of downloading and processing in a split second over and over and over again." Udoka stated, quote, "All of our schemes would be kind of tailored towards stopping the three-pointer. If we can switch things and take teams out of their actions and make them beat us one-on-one, it takes down the three-pointers." This couldn't be more apparent than on April 6th, where the Rockets held Steph Curry to his worst game in years. He finished with 3 points on 1 for 10 shooting, 1 for 8 from 3. From his utilization of zone to his staunch confidence in his players individually. The Rockets do have a plethora of great defenders, and Udoka stressed the importance of staying in front of your man and moving as a string if your teammate needs help, all while making sure the three-point line is heavily defended at all times. A lot of fans are thinking the Warriors will run away with it, but it's gonna be way harder than it seems. For the Rockets, their defense has been a success, and as experienced as Golden State is, New blood is on the horizon, and this series will be a grind, a dogfight till the very end. The next matchup we're going to take a look at is the Knicks and Pistons. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know I'm a Knicks fan, but I believe this series can be very dangerous for the Knicks. There's a bunch of holes the Pistons can exploit. For one, the Knicks' three-point defense is pretty bad this year. They allow opponents to shoot 37% from three, the 5th worst among all teams in the league. And the Pistons have some snipers on the roster.
Out in the corner, Beasley checks it and hits the three. A 4-point lead. Like he pushed off a bit. Hardaway, open three. No, passes it. Beasley, another three. It's good. Malik Beasley.
Which, if the dominoes fall in a certain way, they could go off at any moment and shoot the Knicks out of the game. In general, the Knicks have the superior talent and star power, nobody's gonna question that. With Brunson and Towns leading the way, their offensive prowess could simply overpower the Pistons, who also happen to be quite young and inexperienced, their first postseason with their new core of players much like the Houston Rockets. On paper, if you compare rosters, there's no way the Knicks should lose against a team like this, with all their players in the middle of their primes playing the best basketball they've had in their entire careers. But there is a stat that's been spread around the media, and it's kinda concerning, I'm not gonna lie. Here it is. The Knicks' record against teams above 500. Take a look at this graphic right here. When facing teams below 500, they're basically just as good as the Celtics and Cavs. When facing teams above 500, they're just awful. Out of the top 5 seeds in the East, they're the worst. It shows they're clearly missing something when facing good teams. And the Pistons, unironically, are a good team now. In addition, the Pistons do have some advantages that could pose some issues. Their playstyle is almost the antithesis of the Knicks. With their youth, they've established a game plan of running up and down the court, playing at a much faster pace, whereas Tom Thibodeau-coached teams always happen to be very methodical and half-court oriented, much like the New York Knicks. Unlike the previous iterations of the Pistons, this team actually has ample amounts of shooting, and now their athleticism has been put on full display with so much more space on the court. At the same time, they've also made a massive jump defensively. In fact, since January 1st, the start of the new year, the Pistons have registered a 110.3 defensive rating, good for 3rd in the entire league. Basically, JB Bickerstaff has always been a hard-nosed defense-first coach, and throughout the course of the year, the Pistons have steadily gotten better and more willing to follow his approach. That's actually the part I'm more scared of when facing the Pistons. As great as the Knicks' offense has been, there are still plenty of times when they're so stagnant against elite defensive teams. You know the thing I mentioned earlier about their pitiful record against above 500 teams? Well, in many of those losses, it's their offense that struggles to put together a string of good possessions.
White is on Brunson. Brunson of 3 for the lead. Rebound Porzingis.
It looks like a jumbled mess at times. With the Pistons being one of those elite defensive teams, perhaps they could be an issue for the Knicks as well. They're just a completely different team than years past, a team now with a fierce identity, a throwback to the Pistons of back in the day. That blue-collared, hard-nosed, rugged playstyle has been the identity of Detroit for the past 5 decades. The Timberwolves vs. Lakers. Yes, the series where really nobody has faith in the Wolves. In theory, it makes sense why the Lakers are heavily favored. With the popularity of their team, plus the mid-season trade for Luka, who obliterated the Wolves in the previous playoffs, there's no question they are the superior team, right? And this trio is now among the most potent offensive trios in the league. They're hitting their stride at just the right time. Much like the Warriors, the Lakers' record is also misleading, despite what their net rating indicates, which I'll talk about later. I believe the Lakers are much better than a 50-win team. Even though the Wolves are only 1 game behind, it feels like their team is a lot worse than just 1 game compared to the Lakers. And this is where my skepticism comes in, and I believe the Wolves do have a chance. Do you know of the stat net rating? I'm sure you do. Every team has a net rating, which measures the team's efficiency by calculating the difference between their offensive rating and defensive rating. It seems like a simple stat, but over the course of NBA history, this single stat, net rating, has been the best predictor of who the better team is in a playoff matchup. If we go by this, the Lakers have a much worse net rating than the Wolves. The Wolves' net rating of plus 5.1 is actually 4th in the entire league, whereas the Lakers, with only a plus 1.2 rating, puts them at 14th. Despite the Lakers being heavily favored, based on historical metrics, the Wolves should be the favorites to win. And then that's where the twist comes in. In recent history, teams led by LeBron and Luka are the major exceptions to this rule. For example, LeBron's Cavs have always defeated teams with much superior net ratings, as did Luka's Mavs. In fact, in just the 2024 playoffs, the Mavs defeated 3 straight teams with better net ratings than they had. Some of those series were convincing wins too. For the mere fact that the Lakers now have both these guys on one team, the Wolves are in trouble. With all that being said, I do think the Wolves are being overlooked, and this series might be more competitive than you think. For one, they are a much better offensive team than years past. Actually, since the All-Star break, they've recorded a 122 offensive rating, the second highest among all teams. This turnaround has been low-key and quiet. Not many folks paid attention to them or realized how good their offense has become. In the beginning, everyone was dumping on Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. The 2 players they got back from the Towns trade took several months to get their groove going. DiVincenzo shot the ball horribly at the start, but has since improved to his usual efficiency. Whereas Randle, you never know what you're gonna get from him, but he has taken a step back and let other players handle the ball more. His lower shot attempts and lower usage directly correlates to the Wolves' improvement offensively. Still equipped with strong individual defenders, along with Anthony Edwards' 3-point revelation and a chip on his shoulder, the Wolves are a major threat. The Lakers, as great as their offense is, their defense is still an area of concern, especially against a team as explosive and athletic as the Wolves. Anyway, that's all, folks. I believe those are 3 playoff matchups where the lower seed does have a solid chance at winning, or at least making it a competitive series that could go either way. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree or disagree with my assessment? Do you think any other teams can possibly upset a higher seed? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.